It seems like this clock has been measuring the amount of time we all have had to wait for an RX10 Mark V. How much longer is it going to be?
So in this video, we'll be addressing a few questions. Number one, what are the odds of an RX10 Mark V coming out anytime soon or at all? So if you're kind of nervous about buying an RX10 Mark IV right now because it's such an old unit and it might be replaced at some point, should you just wait a little longer and hope, or just buy this thing now already? So I'm going to answer those questions for you in this video based on a unique analysis I did and the history of what's going on with the Sony RX series. I'll also be showing you some footage throughout this video, all taken with the RX10 Mark IV in beautiful 4K 30 video. This way you won't have to see me babbling on for about 10 minutes or so. So in case you're not up to speed on this camera, I have quite a few videos on it because I just think it's such a great camera and can do so many things and is so versatile. Be sure to check those videos out. So what makes this camera so unique is its super sharp Carl Zeiss lens, which goes from a nice wide 24 millimeters to an incredibly tight 600 millimeters, all with the press of a button. It also retains a really fast aperture throughout that range. Not a constant aperture, but a fast 2.4 to 4, which is excellent. And it has a 1-inch sensor, way bigger than a small cell phone size sensor.
Now, I did have a video out about a rumor that there was an RX10 Mark V. Unfortunately, it never came to pass. Yes, there were other cameras Sony released, but it wasn't the one we were looking for. Let's get a clue to the future based on the past. Now, the original model was released in late 2013 with a 24 to 200 millimeter fixed aperture f2.8 lens and had an ND filter built in and shot 1080p video. Then about a year and a half later, in 2015, the same lens, sharper viewfinder, and 4K 30. The following year, we saw the Mark III, and that was shocking with a 600 millimeter zoom. No more ND filter, still 4K 30 video. And here we are with the Mark IV, the same 24 to 600 millimeters, but with a much improved autofocus system going to phase detect and some video improvements in 4K and HD. Now, Sony's other very popular RX camera is this one, the RX100 Mark VII. This timeline may give us some clues. The very first model released in 2012, followed by the next model the year later, and then we had the version 3 in 2014. The year later was the next model. The year later was the next model. They waited 2 years for the version 6, 1 year for the version 7 in 2019, and then what? Nothing. Stopped. Just like the RX10 line. Stopped. Boom. Complete stop. There was one more RX camera, the 1R. There was a version 1 and 2, and that too stopped. Now, yes, there was COVID, and that slowed things down for a while, but come on, that excuse is over. The RX10 was being updated every year and then just stopped. So is this really the end? Sony has released quite a number of other cameras in the last few years, namely higher-end APS-C, full-frame cameras, and they're going after the vlogging market with the ZV line. So does this mean that we must lay to rest the RX series? After all these years without a successor, is there really any chance Sony is going to resurrect this line? If you had to write a eulogy for the RX10 Mark IV, what would you say? A unique super zoom bridge camera loved by many that will be sorely missed for years to come. But is it possible Sony technicians are feverishly working on a replacement for the RX10 Mark IV? While it's possible, it does seem kind of suspicious, doesn't it, that all these years have gone by and we haven't seen a replacement or any encouragement from Sony that there will be a replacement. Now, this is the original RX10 camera, and physically, each successive model really only has minor changes to the one prior. That's Sony's philosophy. They kind of do more evolutionary changes to the physical design and even to the features as well.
Sony's flagship high-resolution A7R5 still has the same sensor that the model before it, the A7R4, had, just to give you an example of these evolutionary changes. So if you're thinking the RX10 Mark V is going to have a bigger sensor, maybe an APS-C size sensor and an 800mm zoom, you're going to need to think again because physics just won't allow it. A camera like that would be absolutely so expensive and humongous. All right, maybe not that big, but you get the idea.
That is big.
But it doesn't need to be so big to produce big results. So if we were to receive an RX10 Mark V, what are the most likely feature upgrades that we would get? Well, probably an upgraded battery for sure. I think the zoom probably will stay at 600mm. It's going to be really hard to get a longer zoom with a 1-inch sensor in there. A flippy screen, yes, but some may like that and others may not. A very good chance the video specs would be upgraded to 4K 60 or even 4K 120, but 8K is not likely. Better stabilization algorithm, yes. Sony has made advances with their Bions chips for low light, but just realize this is footage from the RX10 Mark IV and it does very well in low light. And we would definitely see the new Sony menu system in an updated RX model and the latest AF features for insects and animals.
So would all those upgrades be worth it to you? I mean, if they actually did come to pass, maybe some of them will, maybe some of them won't. There was actually a rumor way back when that the new model might drop the built-in flash.
No flash photography, please.
You can get an RX10 Mark IV on eBay or the secondary market at a much reduced price. Yes, it's an older camera, but it's still a unique camera. And there's very few super zoom cameras with a large 1-inch sensor. Panasonic has the model FC2500. I do compare that in a video. Please check that out. But I still think the RX10 Mark IV is the winner. So after running it through a supercomputer, the odds of an RX10 Mark V are 37% in the next 2 years. 37%.
So there's only a 10% chance of that.
Yeah, are you still confused? Maybe you still want to get it, but your significant other doesn't want you to. She thinks you should wait. You think you shouldn't wait. You're not really sure. Well, just remember with technology, there's always going to be something new down the road. So whatever you buy today in a few years will most likely be outdated. But eventually you have to pull the switch. I mean, we're only around for 100 years or so. And every day that goes by that you don't have a camera you really enjoy means you're not having a great time using a camera that you really love.
It really is so nice not to have to change lenses when you want to go in really tight or when you want to pull all the way back to wide angle, and this one camera does it all.
Now, as a disclaimer, everything in this video is just my opinion based on the history of what's going on. You have to draw your own conclusions. I'm not telling you to get it. I'm not telling you to not get it. I just want you to know whatever you decide to do, you are doing it based on an informed decision. I don't want anybody mad at me or giving me dirty looks or like, hey, this guy's a real jerk. Yeah, I can do that too. The bottom line is I own a fair amount of mirrorless cameras with a lot of different lenses, and yet I still find myself reaching for this old RX10 Mark IV. It's such a unique camera, it's so versatile, and the results that it produces, I'll be honest, sometimes I just can't tell the difference between this camera and some of my high-end cameras. I actually have a video on that, comparing this RX10 Mark IV with Sony's flagship A1, and you should definitely check that out.
So buying an RX10 Mark IV right now might feel like it's going back to the future since you're buying an older camera. But hey, you know what they say, they don't make them like they used to.
So I'd love to hear from you in the comments section as to what you plan on doing. Are you going to go for it and buy the RX10 Mark IV or wait for the 5? And also, please hit like and do subscribe, because I do plan on keeping in touch and letting you know the minute I hear any news at all. So thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next video.